Good afternoon. It's Monday, the 3rd of November, 2025, just after 1 o'clock, and welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host, Mike Robinson. My co-host in the studio today is Ben Rubin. Welcome to the program, Ben.
Thank you, Mike.
And joining us by video link are Sandi Adams and Diane Rasmussen. Now, later in the program, Sandi's going to be reporting on agentic AI and what that means for our governance. She's also going to have an update on Project Servator, which we last reported, in fact, in 2019. Diane will be covering digital ID and gender issues, and I've more on, I've got some stuff on the success, in fact, of against the EU censorship agenda, and I'll also be taking a look at Med Safety Week, which is this week. It begins today. But we're going to begin, Ben, with the stabbings on the train, which stopped at Huntington.
We are indeed. Good afternoon, everybody. The country has been on a state of high alert over the weekend after a knife attack on a train at Huntington Station in Cambridgeshire. A man has been arrested and charged with 10 counts of attempted murder. This is an appalling situation. Our thoughts are with the victims of these crimes and also with the witnesses. I was actually personally caught up in a similar situation to this on London Bridge back in 2017, and I know that stuck with me for quite a long time. So the collateral damage from this is going to be huge. But importantly, the public response must be level-headed because it's already being used to further stoke racial, religious and political tensions in the country with a view to punitive crackdowns on our civil liberties, no doubt. Now, the BBC, of course, have been at the forefront of this. They've been running live coverage over the weekend. This was their homepage this morning. The incident has its own timeline on the BBC website. You can see here, kicking off earlier on today, at 6:40 a.m, a story about a train worker being in hospital and a suspect apprehended, with images from the scene. At 6:49, how the stabbing unfolded with a map of the train and timeline describing key events from the situation. At 7:57, Heidi Alexander, Transport Secretary, has announced that there will be increased police presence in train stations to make us all feel more secure, of course. And
any sign of them being armed?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, the militarisation of the police absolutely playing out in the background. And of course, then at 8:17, a former senior copper being rolled out to demand increased security on trains. You can see where this whole thing is heading. I think the Royals have chipped in already today, the works. They're really throwing everything at this. A security review has already been announced. Let's go and have a look over on The Guardian. Heidi Alexander is quoted as saying that metal detectors at train stations would make life impossible, and she's going to consider all other options, which I think probably tells us that that's exactly what they're thinking of doing. They want to bring in metal detectors. They want to make it more difficult for people to travel around the UK without being interfered with by the state apparatus. We can see, as I've already said, where this is heading to. The Guardian, of course, didn't miss a trick with taking a dig at the far right. So we can see here the police were forced to disclose ethnicity of suspects to counter far-right speculation, as if wanting to know who has been apprehended for the crime is itself some kind of criminal activity. And this included a comment from Dal Babu OBE, a former Metropolitan Police Chief Superintendent who was the first chair of the National Association of Muslim Police and also a Common Purpose graduate. He did the Matrix program back in 2001. So I think tells you quite a bit about this. As I said, a man has been arrested. A gentleman called Anthony Williams of 32 years, based in Peterborough. He's been charged with 10 counts of attempted murder. To answer the question posed by The Guardian, I believe that he's of Afro-Caribbean descent. And importantly, just as a final point, we can see at the bottom there that he's also been charged with another count of attempted murder and possession of a bladed article in connection with an incident on the DLR. Earlier on that day.
And
so
for those non-Brits around us, that's the Docklands Light Railway, which is in London.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think this one's going to run on and on.
So how come he wasn't arrested for the DLR attack?
Well, it's because we don't have digital ID.
Oh, I see. Right. Of course. I should have realised that.
And facial recognition and all of that other stuff and metal gates that would have stopped him.
Yes, indeed. Okay, well, the stark warning there for anybody that's getting motivated by this, the motivation needs to be heading in the right direction.
But yeah, don't react emotionally to this, fellas in particular.
Okay, well, look, let's move on then to online safety. And well, back in 2019, sorry, when the online harms white paper was published, a key feature of it was the concept of legal but harmful content. This was problematic because the idea of legal but harmful was not defined, and the question of who was to make the decision about what was considered harmful content was not really specified. Uh, while the subsequent online safety bill was being debated in Parliament, the idea of legal but harmful was dropped from the legislation. It was way too controversial. There was too much pushback for it, and there was actually a danger that the bill would not go through. So they dropped that, but it never actually went away. So the latest go at getting embedded into the censorship regime has been published by Ofcom in the past few days under the guise of what they call unlocking choice, giving users more control over the content they see online. And they say that many adults frequently encounter content online that they consider to be harmful, yet very few make use of existing content control tools and safety features. This raises an important question. They say, how could we unlock choice and give users more control over the content they see? And so they conducted, they claim, a large-scale randomized control trial with a national representative sample of over 3,650 UK adults. That's impressive, Ben.
Well,
Not really,
yeah.
okay. And this is to test the impact of different choice architectures, they say, on the decisions users made regarding their sensitive contact controls. So here we have a new term, sensitive content. And what does it mean is the question. Well, something of note here is who has produced this research, and that's Ofcom's Behavioral Insights Hub. But as for sensitive content, in the paper they identify that the trial quotes contains a discussion of potentially distressing online content related to suicide, self-harm, eating disorders, abuse, and hate. Now, the trial definition emphasizes that content is legal, and so sensitive content does not go against Ofcom's community guidelines, but refers to topics some people don't want to see. And they talk about that in the technical report. Now, there's something fishy here because suicide, self-harm, graphic violence, eating disorders, abuse, hate, these are within the scope, Ben, of Ofcom's definition of illegal harms. And in fact, the platforms were required to run a risk assessment on these types of harms for all the platforms. So what are they talking about? Because the paper then cites another paper titled Behavioral Insights to Empower Social Media Users. And Ofcom notes that in that paper that users were asked about their exposure to, quotes, potentially harmful content on social media. And the examples given included content related to violence, abuse, hatred, self-harm, unhealthy diets, or eating disorders, or any other content that can be considered offensive, inappropriate, and cause serious distress. And the phrase any other content causing serious distress suggests somewhat broader scope than just the already regulated illegal issues. So here we are right back to 2019 with broad brush non-definitions designed to capture any content viewed as harmful. But I would argue that this is designed to capture content considered harmful to the regime, not to individual social media users.
Well, I mean, distress, define distress. And people get distressed at anything these days. I mean, the political opinion they don't agree with, is that distressing?
It could well be.
I think they certainly would fall into the category.
Now, Ofcom has launched a call for evidence for 2 reports that they have to produce under the Online Safety Act about the use of effectiveness of age assurance and the use of app stores by children. Now, the report I think that we should be most interested in is the age assurance one, because that is one of the pathways to digital ID that we've talked about quite a lot over the last number of weeks and months. They're going to look at how providers of regulated services have used age assurance to comply with their duties under the Online Safety Act and how effective it's been, and whether there are factors that have prevented or hindered the effective use of age assurance, such as cost or user privacy. User privacy is not a consideration as far as they're concerned. But anyway, there is going to be plenty to say about that, and the link for the investigation is going to be in the show notes. But the key point here is, if there's a risk in this, it's mainly the risk that every one of us is put at as a result of having to spread our photo IDs across the internet with all kinds of digital identity companies that are out there. But this investigation is not going to deal with the elephant, which is still sitting right there in the middle of the room. We've talked about it many times, because their age assurance checks do nothing to protect children being groomed on platforms designed for children, where adults are posing as children, and where there is no possibility of age assurance being ruled out because children don't necessarily have ID. The question is this going to force children at an ever younger age to get some form of digital identification that demonstrates their age? We shall see. Now let's move on to the better news related to censorship and so on, and that is that the European Council has once again had to step back from its controversial chat control proposal. Now, chat control is a plan that would require the widespread scanning of encrypted messages under the guise of protecting children with child sexual abuse, with respect to child sexual abuse material. Now, Denmark holds the presidency of the European Council at the moment, and they've taken the decision to remove chat control from the agenda because of the massive opposition to it. So it is rejected. The final death blow came in the middle of October, as we reported at the time, when Germany removed its support. And this was mainly because Denmark had brought back a provision in the draft law that would mean that online platforms such as messaging apps could be served with what are described as mandatory child sexual abuse material detection orders. And this would have included platforms like WhatsApp or Signal, which implement end-to-end encryption. But the Danish Justice Minister, Peter Hummelgaard, has told local press, and we'll just do a quick translation of this, that the council presidency would move away from mandatory detection orders and instead support CSAM detections remaining on a voluntary basis in the hope that they can regain support for it. The Danish are concerned that if no agreement is reached on the proposal, even voluntary scanning will not happen once the current legal scheme that they have already imposed runs out in April 2026. But nonetheless, that is a positive step, because there's been so much pushback against this that they don't feel that they can proceed with it. And it absolutely demonstrates that when the pushback is there, they can't proceed.
That is good news. There's something rotten in the state of Denmark. Like they're right at the forefront of a lot of this stuff at the moment, not just on censorship, on all of these sort of social innovation transformation issues.
Absolutely. I mean, it is kind of a coincidence in this case, because they just happen to have the European Council presidency right now. But of course, the UK still pressing ahead with the idea of preventing end-to-end encryption and so on. Well, we will keep you posted on that as we go. But let's welcome Sandi to the program. Sandi, and well, a term that many people may not have heard, and that is agentic.
Absolutely, and this is why I picked this subject today, because we're talking about at the moment the WEF and the governance boards in Ukraine and Berlin are pushing the rise of the Agentic State. Now, in March 2025, some significant events took place with the objective of advancing towards a single concept, which is AI agents capable of perceiving, planning, and acting with minimal human intervention. So what this means is giving agency to AI over humans. And this is really quite chilling. Now, the first slide, I just wanted to flag this one up. It's the most visible banner was for the Chatbox Summit at the Ritz-Carlton Berlin Hotel earlier this year, explicitly themed Mastering Agentic AI Together, bringing global industry leaders to center the shift from chat to action-taking systems. Now, these action-taking systems are actually AI-driven. So this links up with the WEF Foundation of Impact from AI Agents white paper last year. And then if I could have the next slide, at the same time, Ukraine and Germany jointly launched what they call the Global GovTech Board, billed as the world's first international platform for digital governance. And this marks the next step in how governments and artificial intelligence are starting to emerge. Now, who's behind it? As you can see on that panel is Mikhailo Fedorov, who's Ukraine's Minister of Digital Transformation, the man behind Ukraine's Dia app, often described as state in a smartphone. You've got Markus Richter, Germany's State Secretary for the Interior and IT Commissioner, and Manuel Kilian, head of the Global Government Technology Center in Berlin. Now, these two centers, one in Kiev and one in Berlin, will now coordinate the global digital government policy under this new board. And you know what they say it's for officially is about innovation, cybersecurity, and citizen services. The press release talks about developing technological solutions for citizens and creating joint international projects. Now, the word agentic is derived from the noun agent, meaning one that exerts power, something that can produce an effect, and the suffix IC, and what it becomes an adjective, agentic, where it refers to the ability to act independently and achieve outcomes. We're led to believe that this is a positive thing. In plain English, it's about embedding AI systems deeper into government decision-making, from how we perceive benefits or how regulations are enforced to how data, how citizens' data is analysed and acted upon. The bigger picture, the Agentic State idea, around the same time, a white paper from Berlin's Global GovTech Center introduced the term Agentic State. Now, it's a bit sort of worrying, really, because the next slide is you've got Keir Starmer with Palantir in Ukraine earlier on in the year. And the Palantir connection and the war laboratory is really sentient, really, the fact that this is all happening. Ukraine has already been a real world leader test case for the fusion of data, AI and governance. And Palantir has worked closely with Ukraine's military ministries. So Palantir CEO has said outright that his company involved in the most of the targeting of Ukraine. So the same architecture that helps coordinate a battlefield in peacetime can be used to run a digital state. It's fast, it's efficient, and largely automated. So the next slide is the government Technology Center opened in Berlin in 2024 to accelerate governance digital transformation. So why Berlin matters? It's not just the host city for these events, it's becoming a hub for global digital governance worldwide, the place where governments and tech firms meet to align standards. This is where the line between governing with AI and being governed by AI starts to blur. Now, the next slide is the BMJs reported that Palantir gets a £480 million contract to run the NHS data platforms. So where is the oversight in patient GDPR? And then the next slide is the Agentic State white paper. Now, this is quite worrying because on page 20 of that white paper, the next slide, the Agentic State signifies a fundamental shift in governance where AI systems can perceive, reason, and act with minimal human intervention to deliver public value. Human oversight will increasingly move from making decisions to supervising them. This shift may seem uncomfortable, you bet. So what does this mean for all of us? On the surface, agentic AI promises convenience, faster forms, smoother systems, where the power and responsibility live underneath that what they say. That when decisions are automated, accountability dissolves, and when the chain of command runs through this code, appeals become impossible. So slide 9 is all about Milgram warning us about this. It's rather chilling from the past. He warned us about this in 1961. Psychologist Stanley Milgram used the term agentic state to describe what happens when people in stressful situations obediently transfer responsibility to their actions and defer agency, appealing to authority and surrendering their personal agency and their conscience and their values to an authoritative figure. In his experiments at Harvard in 1961, his volunteers obeyed orders to harm others using electric shocks. The volunteers, unaware that the experiment was staged, administered deadly levels of electric shocks on the orders of actors in white coats with clipboards and assumed authority from a famous university. It was stated by Milgram that 65 to 95% of people under stress from authority will obey orders that they know are wrong. And now, half a century later, that same phrase, agentic state, is being used to describe governments run by artificial intelligence. And that's no coincidence. I mean, interestingly, it was the same percentage of people, 65% plus, who obeyed the government and the mainstream media during the vaccine rollout. People appealed to who they perceived were in authority. It was also used in World War II by the Nazis. The question is, who remains accountable when the algorithm acts? So if I could have the next slide. Allowing others to direct your actions and passing the responsibility to the person giving the orders. That's kind of what it means. And 12, the next slide, moving from a state of autonomy to an agented state, you feel less responsible for your own actions and behave as the agent to the authority figure. Now, this is it. We're at this stage where all of this is happening. Now, Klaus Schwab had a tough time in Dubai from the United Arab leaders and investors who were concerned about people not trusting this plan, quite rightly. And here's the hard sell. There was some question. The Arab leaders were questioning the speed of the rollout. So if we could just roll that video, please.
Now, if we look at the future, Minister, you mentioned the lack of trust. Yes, if you look at the future, many people are afraid because the progress is so fast, so complex. Can we understand? I have to confess, even writing at the moment a book on the intelligent age, I don't understand all the aspects. So what is the consequence of not understanding? It's being afraid of the future. So governments have also the task to explain to the people, to be educators, to show them that actually those technologies have more opportunities than they entail threats. Now, the future is not happening. The future is shaped by us. The future is shaped particularly, and has to be shaped, through cooperation and collaborative efforts between governments, business, and civil society. The worst what could happen is not just we lose trust into governments or business. The worst what could happen is that we lose trust in our future. And the future is not happening. The future is shaped by us, as I mentioned.
Interesting. I mean, he seems to be worried that that people aren't trusting him, and quite rightly. And of course, he says that the future belongs to them. The question is, who remains accountable when the algorithm acts? Have we learned our lesson? We should pay attention now, while we still have a say, because once authority becomes automated, it's very hard to take it back. And when the genie's out of the bottle, we can't put it back.
Thank you, Sandi. Thank you for that. Okay, let's move on to Diane then, and welcome to the program, Diane. And what's been going on in Darlington with respect to nursing there?
Yes, thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here today. I thought, as the Northern correspondent for UK Column, I should remind everyone that there is a very major case going on right now in Newcastle, taking place, an employment tribunal involving 8 nurses who work at Darlington Memorial Hospital. And they have filed legal action against the County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust for sexual harassment and sex discrimination. They're saying that the changing room policies that have been in place there for a number of years now have put the nation at risk, in their words, and specifically women. People may or may not know that when they work at a hospital, NHS nurses have to come to work in their own clothing and then change into their nursing uniforms upon their arrival at the hospital. And the reason this has all become an issue now is because of someone who is named in the media anyway as Rose Henderson, who is a physical male identifying as female. He is reported to be very large physically and has not made any attempt whatsoever at taking hormones or having surgery to even appear as female. He has been using this changing room for women only since 2019. So eventually in March 2024, there were 26 nurses from this hospital, and they signed a letter complaining to management about this person's use of the women's changing room and the alleged conduct in there. I don't know what that is specifically. HR told them, however, that they needed to, quote, broaden their mindset and be more, quote, inclusive after they asked not to share their changing room, which is meant to be single-sex space, with a biological man. The trust has also told them that it was okay that this happened because he has said he is a woman. So therefore, there's not a problem. I've watched some videos where they've interviewed the nurses and so on, and some of these will be in the show notes. One nurse said that, and I think this is an excellent point as someone who's been through something similar, is that we shouldn't have to be brave to speak out for why the women don't feel safe with a man entering their spaces. The tribunal is still ongoing, and I will continue to follow it and report on it. But just as an update, just on the 31st of October, on Friday, Gillian Bailey, who is the workforce experience manager, according to the BBC, told the tribunal that once a person had declared to a line manager that they were, quote, living their life fully in that gender, whatever that means, they could use the single-sex space that matched their preference. And the barrister for the nurses asked if that would then mean that people whose biological sex did correspond with the single-sex facility would therefore not have, quote, exclusive right to that space, to which Mrs. Bailey replied, yes. The policy that has been in place since 2021 stated that anyone not wanting to share their single-sex space should use, quote, alternative facilities, although it did not specify what those should be, according to what was said to the tribunal. So, as I said, I will continue to report on this, but there are some questions to ask here as well. What is really going on? Why is this continuing to happen? We've seen the case, which there's still some issues ongoing with the nurse Sandi Peggy in Scotland. She was cleared of gross misconduct charges by NHS 5 earlier this year for the same issue, for saying that she didn't feel comfortable being forced to change clothes with a biological man who has been identified in the media as Dr. Beth Upton. So I have a video clip here. This is obviously not Rose Henderson, but this is another man who is identifying as a woman. This was an interview that took place with this person, along with Kelly J. Keane or Posey Parker, depending on how you know her, and Edge of the Matrix. They were talking to this person just outside of the tribunal court just over a week ago. So let's watch a clip from this particular video, please.
Not to use women-only spaces, okay?
That's fine if you can identify. For me, I'm getting frustrated where people are getting confused between biological sex and gender.
Sex. Yeah, biological sex means you can't come into women-only spaces.
But being trans is a protected characteristic of the
Not for
Equality
me,
Act.
it's not. Yeah, but not in a women-only toilet, it's not.
It's a protected characteristic of the Equality Act.
Yeah, but not to allow you in women-only spaces, it's not.
Based on biological sex. That's what the Supreme Court ruling
Supreme Court
confirmed.
Was funded by
Don't.
funded by J.K. Rowling with billions. Didn't listen to trans voices. We had trans judges which were refused to give evidence. We didn't have our voices heard in it. The EHRC have removed their evidence.
I'm going to speak to you very kindly.
Guidance.
I'm going to speak to you very kindly. Right. Whatever struggles you're going through, and I imagine they are immense, your biological sex is male. That means you cannot come into women-only spaces.
Yes, I was born a male.
But how tall are you?
I'm medically diagnosed with a condition which means but my gender doesn't match my biological sex.
But you wouldn't want to...
so would you argue with medicine?
Yeah. You wouldn't want women to feel afraid, would you?
I don't want women to be afraid. I've got plenty.
So he doesn't want women to be afraid, but he is making women feel afraid by entering their toilets and their spaces. So I'm sure there's much more to discuss about this in Extra. It's a very interesting thing, which we've been covering the last couple of weeks, Mike.
Absolutely, Diane, and we will talk about that in Extra, I'm quite sure. So thank you for that. Okay, let's move on then. If you like what the UK Column does, if you'd like to help us out, please have a look at the front page of the UK Column website. And there is a button there for you to click, which will take you to a page that gives all the options. We do need ongoing financial support, so if you could possibly join us as a member or make a donation, that would be massively appreciated. And we just want to thank everybody again that is supporting us in that way. If you can't support us financially, then please do share the material that you see on the UK Column website on the various platforms and help us get around the censorship agenda regime that we've been talking about over the last few years. Okay, tonight Jerem is speaking to Escape Key on climate agendas and social credit systems at 7 p.m. Join him for that then. And then at 9 o'clock, Carl Zah is looking at how China's military technological leap has changed everything. So join him for that at 9 o'clock tonight. At 1 p.m. tomorrow, I'm speaking to Del Bigtree on an Inconvenient Study, which is Del's new film, which is out. If you haven't seen that film, it's absolutely worth watching. But join me at 1 p.m. For discussion with Del. And then on Thursday, Sandi is speaking to Neil Oliver at 1 p.m. So I just want to give an early heads up for that one as well. Please join us for that. Now, Diane, we've got a couple of new articles up here. First of all, Dr. Piers Robinson.
Yes, so this is a new one from Piers Robinson on the this is part 4 of his really, really fascinating and disturbing and detailed series on the Syria chemical weapons narrative. So please check that one out. It's really very good.
Thank you. And lest we forget.
This one is a part 2 of a 4-part series from Hugh McCarthy, who is the retired head teacher in Northern Ireland. This particular series is about the damage that has been done to children or was done to children during the COVID lockdown era. And this is, again, an ongoing series and lots of things to learn from what we already knew and what they knew and didn't tell us.
Thanks for that. And just to let everybody know that the second part of the 1,000 Words podcast, Jake Fern painting James Dellingpole, the second part of that is available for members only on the UK Column website or on the forums. So do watch it and let us know your thoughts on it. And Dan, the Scottish Union for Education conference is upcoming.
Yes, it's the 15th of November, which is a Saturday, all day in Glasgow. The tickets are available. They're relatively well priced. There will be a link in the show notes if you would like to buy a ticket for yourself. I have some information here from Dr. Stuart Waiton, who's the chair for Scottish Union for Education, that he just wanted me to share with UK Column viewers today about the conference. And he said, quote, "Scottish education is in serious trouble. Falling standards, low expectations, and a curriculum for excellence that is neither a curriculum or about excellence." I can say that's true. I've looked at it in detail. On top of this, those who run our education system argue that teaching is about social justice. As a result, schools are being filled with activists and activism and a new politically correct dogma without a focus on knowledge as key, helped by a belief in the beauty and ingenuity of the past, the best that has been thought and said. Schools lose their sense of purpose and discipline. We have a great lineup of speakers, including Sir Nick Gibb, Tom Bennett, and Joanna Williams. We want to get education on the political agenda so that our politicians in the 2026 Holyrood election cannot ignore this issue. We desperately need education, not indoctrination. So please join the Scottish Union for Education on the 15th of November if you possibly can.
Thanks, Dan. Fantastic. I would echo that. Okay, let's move on then to great news, because today marks the beginning of Med Safety Week 2025. Could it be any better? The 10th annual Med Safety Week brings together more than 130 medicines regulators and health organizations across 117 countries. And this is all so that the UK's MHRA can continue to try to established itself as a global pharmaceutical regulator. Now, MHRA has announced that it's urging the public to help keep medicines, medical devices, vaccines, and blood products safe by reporting side effects, device incidents, and suspected fake medical products as part of Med Safety Week. And they say that with more people using medicines and medical devices than ever before, from weight loss treatments to wearable monitors, safety reporting is a key part of protecting public health. Because they did that very well during the COVID jab rollout, didn't they, Dan?
Well, they did, but they didn't do anything about the information coming back.
Indeed. Anyway, anyone, they say, patients, carers, pharmacists, doctors, nurses can report through the MHRA Yellow Card scheme at yellowcard.mhra.gov.uk. And they're asking people to report side effects, even if they're unsure they're linked to the medicine. Medical device problems such as false or unexpected behavior, suspected fake products, especially those bought online or via social media. Now, they have a fake meds campaign, which provides advice to people in the UK who are considering buying medication online. And they say that this outlines how products can be accessed from safe and legitimate sources. But I just wanted to highlight the headline there, fake medicines can kill. And yet we could say that equally about pharmaceuticals. So, you know.
It's one of the top killers in the NHS, isn't it? Over medication. Dear, oh dear.
Yes, indeed.
They got some real, I think the word is chutzpah. This is really quite something.
Yeah, well, also from the NHS, in what they claim to be a major move for people living with so-called rare conditions. They've announced their intention to completely overhaul how rare disease therapies are developed and approved and delivered in the UK. And again, rather than regulating, they're enabling. And this fits very well with the Stargate project, by the way. Now, they're saying that currently around 3.5 million people in the UK live with a rare disease, and that fewer than 5% of those conditions have a licensed treatment. They say that the average patient's journey to diagnosis is 5.6 years, and for children diagnosed with rare diseases, around 30% of them die before their 5th birthday. And so to deal with this, they've announced that they're writing a bold new rulebook with publication expected next year. They're going to create a faster, more flexible pathway for rare disease therapies, recognizing the traditional drug approval routes don't always work when patient numbers are small and clinical trial data are limited. And so they'll consider whether a single approval could cover both the start of a clinical trial and a marketing authorization. And they'll consider that on the basis of compelling but limited evidence with rigorous post-market monitoring and real-world data to follow. They say that they're going to improve the sharing of evidence both domestically and internationally, so that that scarce data can be pooled. They're going to develop surveillance systems to track safety and outcomes after treatment, and they're going to better align the UK's regulatory and health system processes. Now, I understand why this might seem on the surface to be fantastic news for those desperate for a solution to real problems. But consider what this is doing: faster trial approvals, normalization of therapies based on genomics and mRNA. And while they talk about potentially a greater number of life-changing treatments reaching those affected, they also talk about this always being under the mantra of safety and efficacy. And we've seen that demonstrated over the last few years. And what this is doing is making use of people that are in tragic conditions to normalize the types of behavior that we saw 2021, 2022.
Indeed. And increase surveillance. And Yes. Now, bad news.
Absolutely. Now, sticking of surveillance and digitization and so on, what's happening in the EU?
The EU, the European Union. Well, we're going to have a little look at the EU and its role in the orchestration of global governance, the values that it adheres to, and the fact that it's actually really quite struggling at the moment to roll out some of its big programs, particularly around AI and CBDC, which I'm quite tickled by, to be honest with you. But to start with, let's have a little listen to a clip from this interview with the French author, philosopher and civil servant Jacques Attali talking about the EU and its role in global governance back in 2009.
History teaches us that if Europe doesn't get its act together in the next few years with a proper European government, the whole European project will collapse. Because if we don't move forward, we'll fall back. And if we don't have one finance minister, one budget, one economic policy, one social policy, the euro itself will have no meaning, because the euro cannot exist without a single-minded European discipline.
So the EU of tomorrow must be completely integrated politically, or will cease to exist.
Exactly. Or each nation will revert to protectionism, and that is a threat to world growth. Either we're heading towards a world government, or we're going to put national issues first.
This idea of a world government will frighten many people.
Indeed, that's only to be expected because it seems like a fantasy. But there is already global authority in many areas. In airline security, in football, in banking. And even if it's hard to think of a European government at the moment, which is there but very weak, Europe can at least pass on its experience to the world. If we're not capable of creating an economic framework alongside a political framework in Europe, then we're never going to do it on a global scale.
Economic, political, social coherence into a single entity, militarily as well, which we talk about all the time. And people are scared about this, as you laughed about in the clip, because they just can't believe how that something this good could ever exist.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting, right? EU, right at the absolute core of efforts for global governance. This is the laboratory. This is where everything is being tested out. And importantly, it's got a very specific set of values. Let's have a little listen to Ursula von der Leyen talking in Israel back in 2022.
Europe is the values of the Talmud, the Jewish sense of personal responsibility, of justice, and of solidarity.
So apparently, it runs on Talmudic values, Talmud being one of the key texts of rabbinic Judaism. I think that would probably surprise most people to hear that, to be honest with you, or maybe less so of late, I don't know. Anyway, how's this stuff being deployed? Those Talmudic values are being encoded into the technological substructure that the whole of our system is running on and will run on more in the future if these people have their way, but they're actually struggling to roll it out. Let's have a little listen to Ursula talking about AI in rather desperate fashion just a few months ago.
Next week, we are presenting an Apply AI strategy. It is based on a simple yet transformative principle, and that is AI first. I think this is worth an applaud. I heard the one and only person there. That was symbolic for the uptake of AI. One person starting, the rest following.
That was symbolic for the uptake of AI. Politician makes a big announcement, no one's interested. Yeah. Absolutely no one wants this. They're struggling to implement it. We talk about it all the time. And actually, a lot of the signals that I'm getting back just from listening to like my former professional network on places like LinkedIn, for example, is that the experiments, the proofs of concept are not gaining traction. This is like trying to mix oil and water. Like it's just, you can shake it up and it might look like it's mixed, but actually it will just separate again. It's not going to work. And, it's not just AI where they're really struggling, it's also with CBDC. Let's have a little listen now to Christine Lagarde.
Hello. I have good news for you on the digital euro front. Today the Governing Council has decided to move ahead on the next and final phase of the preparatory work for the digital euro. The other good news is that on October 23rd, the European Council has asked us and all those involved to accelerate the process so that we can roll out the digital euro as early as possible. This is important because as much as banknotes will continue to circulate, we want cash to be in the form of digital euro as well, so that you can circulate banknotes and click cash with the digital euro. More work is going to be done in the next few months. And if we receive the approval by the European Parliament in the course of 26, we'll be able to pilot the digital euro as of 27. And if the pilot is conclusive and positive, it will be a formal rollout in the whole of Europe in 2029. This is a big project because the euro is our currency, your currency. It brings us together. It's a symbol of trust in our common destiny. So off we go with the digital euro in that next and final phase of the preparation.
Off we go, Ben.
Off we go. It's a symbol of trust in our common destiny, ever closer union between the European states. The next and final phase that they're moving into for CBDC, the Council want them to accelerate this because this is the primary control mechanism for this digital state that they're ushering us into. So they're getting desperate, I think, right? They want to pull this over the line. People don't want it. That was on Twitter. If you go and have a look at the comments underneath it, I would say it is 99% negative. Right, and that's why they're so terrified at the moment, is that the public response, and one of the reasons why they're trying to crack down on social media so much at the moment, is because what is coming back to them from the population is universally negative. Again, just go and look at anything that Keir Starmer posts online at the moment is getting ratioed 10-1 at least, even with all of the 77th Brigaders in there going into bat for him. And then crucially, that final point from that clip from Lagarde was that the rollout date for this is 2029. So they've still got 3 years to go, and a lot can happen in 3 weeks, let alone 3 years. So for me, that makes me feel very optimistic, despite all of the stuff that we got going on around us.
So Diane, of course, CBDC can't happen without digital ID. What was happening over the weekend?
Absolutely true, Mike. And this is where we need to draw the line, I believe. There have been digital ID rallies starting up all over the country. I was speaking at the one in Newcastle over the weekend. We can see there we were gathered by the monument, and that you can see the crowds were relatively well-sized. Certainly, we would have liked more, but we were also happy with the fact that there were some people there in support of us. Had a really, really interesting set of talks, I believe. Mine was the first one that went up around, I sort of was trying to get the crowd going and trying to get people engaged a bit. So I had actually quite a good time at the event. Afterwards, there was a march which led through Eldon Square, which is the shopping center that's near the monument in the city center of Newcastle, which I did not participate in, but I did hear that was quite successful. The police tried to intervene and stop them, but they were not successful in doing so. So I actually think that was a pretty good sign. So I've got some clips here. If we can play some of the things that I have available here. I have 2 clips from my talk, and I have to say I got quite emotional, which is probably good as well as bad. But let's watch my first clip, and then we'll see what happened.
What were they doing in 2020, 2021? Do we remember? Vaccine passports, track and trace. Was this a test? Were they trying to get compliance going? Yes, they were. Do we remember? How many complied? I did not comply. Any mask wearers? Nope. Any test and trace people? Any jabs? No. None of us did any of it. And we need to do the same thing now in 2025 with digital ID, because that's what they were trying to get us to do 5 years ago. How many more people do we have now with us? How many more people have we seen pass away from the experimental injections they were putting into our friends and family? Do we have more people with us now? But maybe we're not with us in 2020. What do you think?
Yes.
Have we seen enough? Yes. Have we seen our children suffer from not being able to go to school because they were supposed to be staying home and protecting Granny? How many of us remember that, right?
Yeah.
How many of us had businesses ruined, careers destroyed? I lost my university career as a professor because I was speaking out. I refused to accept the £350,000 that the NHS was trying to offer me to push the jabs. Why? Because I have a conscience. And you all do here today, and we need to continue to do this work. How many of us understand what's going on behind digital ID? What are they trying to do? They want to watch everything that we do. And what's dangerous about that is that they will know exactly where we are, what we're doing, Do we want that for ourselves? Do we want that for our children? Do we want that for our families? No! Resist! Defy! Do not comply! Resist! Defy! Do not comply!
So after that range of emotional issues I went through, I tried to calm it down a bit further later on in the speech. So let's watch what happened later on.
How do we do this? We love each other. This is a spiritual battle we're in, everybody. We have to love each other. We have to give everybody a hug. We have to keep positive. This is what happens. People say, I give them hope on UK column. We need a fresh approach. We need to love each other. We need to work together. We need to give out the love and the hope and the spiritual difference that will need to be made if we're going to make a difference, so that those evil people down there at 10 Downing Street don't take over our lives and the individual freedoms that we all possess by just existing, and we have to protect that. Are you willing to help me?
Yes!
What are we going to do? Resist! Defy! Do not comply!
So you can see my entire speech as well as the speeches of the others who were talking to the crowd in Newcastle on the We the People Northeast. All of the speeches are available there. We also had, as we see here, a few still images that I've taken from the event. First, there was Charlie Van Boy, who was the compare for the event. I have to say, though, I was on first because Charlie was running late because he thought it started at 1 p.m., but actually it started at noon, and we were all running a bit behind, but we got there eventually. Lots of really interesting signs there. You can see from the Yellow Board people as well. We also had a very good factual speech from Martin Davies, who is with the Freedom Alliance. And you can see there, he was holding up a cassette tape and saying, so he was comparing what it was like when we made mixtapes back in our generation, how we could, fix a tape when it was broken. But what do we do when the digital system gets broken and we can no longer access things? And how is that going to affect our lives? It was much easier to repair something back in that time than compared to what we have now, when everything is meant to be apparently on our phones and trackable and traceable. But then, one of my concerns as well is what happens when that goes down? What happens when your passport is on your phone and you can't get back into the country after you've been on holiday because the phone got discharged while you were on the plane for however long? We also had Fiona Rose Diamond, she's been active in protests and so on for many years, including during the COVID era. She's holding her phone up there as, possibly, I guess, an example of, these are the kinds of things that we carry around with us. But, what actually is it that we are protesting against? And that is, again, as we've been talking about throughout today's news, and as UK Column has been covering for a very long time, the issues of surveillance, the issues of CBDC, which, again, can't take place unless we agree to digital ID, the fact that we want driving licenses, so the DVLA records, NHS records, everything else that we need to have whatsoever will be on this. And that's my concern as someone with a background in informatics and data, is that the real danger happens when everything is connected all together. It's bad enough when we already have all of our different sales data and our government data and our UK.gov information and everything else all scattered around online. But Mike, you'll know as well, probably better than I will, that the really dangerous part of this is when we have digital ID and they link all of these things together in one place. And then what happens to us and sort of the vulnerability that's associated with having those things tied together. So I'm not sure if you have anything to say about this, Mike. I'm sure you do.
Well, we'll keep that for extra because there'll be plenty to discuss there. So thanks, Diane, for that. Now, Sandi, let's sort of finish with Project Servator. As I say, we haven't mentioned this since 2019. It's really sort of Stasi Germany coming to Britain.
Absolutely, Mike. And it kind of links up to what Ben was saying earlier about the Huntington thing. It really is ramping up police presence and fear, and it's exerting extra police powers in communities. Now, we've just this week, my first slide is the fact that Glastonbury, which is actually quite a sleepy little place. Yeah, we've got a few worries with drunks and the odd drug problem, but it's not massive antisocial behaviour. But ahead of the Glastonbury Chilkwell Carnival, which I have to say is a family event, Avon and Somerset Police will be conducting Project Servator. And they're going to deploy these around Glastonbury Town Centre using highly visible and unpredictable patrols to deter criminal activity and reassure the public that officers will work with partners to spot suspicious behaviour and encourage everyone to report anything that doesn't feel right. Now, this is really kind of 1984 snitch society stuff. So I just wanted I am going to be running a video at the moment about what Project Servator is all about. And it's kind of Avon and Somerset Police and partners are businesses and the public are rolling this whole thing out. It's a name given to unpredictable, highly visible police deployments carried out by Avon and Somerset Police and other forces designed to disrupt a wide range of criminal activity. The tactics aim to identify and disrupt hostile reconnaissance, the information gathering a criminal does when planning to commit a criminal act, including terrorist attacks. Our officers are experienced and specially trained to spot the telltale signs that someone may be carrying out hostile reconnaissance or preparing to commit a crime. Now, this is pre-crime. We once had habeas corpus, innocent until proven guilty. That is a thing of the past. They work with security staff to look out for those signs and take action. What you will see, specially trained, uniformed, ununiformed officers will turn up unannounced at various locations to carry out deployments, and these will be unpredictable, so they could happen at any time and last for different amounts of time. The officers will be supported by other assets and security measures. Some you will be able to see and some you will not, such as plainclothes police officers, police dogs and horses, armed officers, CCTV operators, automatic number plate recognition, and police drones. Vehicle checkpoints are often carried out. As part of the deployments, officers will hand out leaflets explaining what Project Servator is, while you may also see posters on display. Now, this is really ramping up the whole fear factor within our communities and encouraging community policing in a sort of 1984 snitch society akin to Orwell's 1984. So I'm deeply suspicious of this because it's so full on, and particularly in a town at a family event like Glastonbury. Why is it being implemented? Back to you.
This is a good question, Sandi, and just to make sure everybody understands. Although Sandi's talking about Avon and Somerset Police, this is a national thing. So it's being trialled at Glastonbury, but it's something that's being rolled out right across the country. And a very key feature of it is indeed the whole snitch culture, Sandi. And that's why I mentioned the Stasi state thing at the beginning. I mean, you got any thoughts?
No, I'm speechless, really. It's just, I mean, what an indictment of the society we live in that this is going on.
Well, and that nobody's pushing back against it.
Well,
but this sort of idea of reliance on the state, and of course the state having the role in keeping everyone safe. This is no longer something that you or I do for ourselves. We don't make our own judgments about what keeps us safe. We've got to rely on ever armed, ever surveilling police and others to do this for us. It is quite incredible.
It is.
Okay, super. Thank you. Let's leave that there for today then. Thanks to everybody that's joined us. We'll be back in a few minutes for some news extra if you're a UK column member. If you're not, maybe you'd like to join us for extra as well. But don't forget Germ Warfare tonight at 7, the Silicon Steel podcast at 9, and my interview with Del Bigtree tomorrow at 1 p.m. in the usual places. We hope to see you then. See you for now. Bye-bye.